We're live. Hi, everyone.
What it do? What it do? Hi, Zoe.
Hello. How are you, beautiful people?
We are good. How are you? Face is serving, lashes to the gods.
Thank you so much. I'm good. I'm so good. I'm grateful that I'm still alive. I have a roof over my head. I'm smiling. I have people that love me. I mean, what else do I want for? I'm happy to be here as well.
I am so excited for tonight's conversation. I have the supreme pleasure of introducing Zoë today. Zoë Modiga is an artist who represents the present and the future of South African music, drawing from the roots of African storytelling, jazz composition, and Motown soul, creating a sound entirely her own in order to communicate an evolving African sound without losing its essence. A celebrated artist at home with awards such as the Mbogodo Award, the SAMRO Overseas Scholarship Competition. Zoe's debut album was nominated for Best Jazz Album and Best African Artist for the 24th South African Music Awards in 2018. She's been nominated for a Feather Award for Music in 2020 and celebrates her first international cover with Songlines UK. Zoe's collaborated with some of South Africa's finest musicians, including Ladysmith Black Mambazo, Thandiswa Mazwai, Johnny Clegg, Simphiwe Dana, Louis Maolo, Tepo Tsula, and many, many more. Zoë Modiga is an artist challenging the status quo and inspiring a new generation, a true representation of excellence, and the guest we have the honor of discussing tonight. Welcome to the Cheeky Native, Zoe.
Thank you for a beautiful intro.
Girl, that's all you. That's all you. That is all you.
Also, can we just take a moment to talk about how absolutely gorgeous Zoe is? Like,
Right?
I'm just like,
Every time.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I feel like after we've finished this conversation, I'm just going to walk different. Everyone's going to be looking at me with weird eyes in the kitchen. I'll just have a little oomph in my step because of these amazing compliments.
They better recognize, okay, because you did that. They better recognize.
You know.
So we want to welcome our people who are watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. This is your party. We are effectively just here to give Zoe her flowers. As a literary art platform, we want to ensure that we celebrate people for their excellence. And this is really just an opportunity for us to do that. And you're welcome to, share your experiences, share what moves you, and we'll share that with Zoe. So from wherever you're watching, you can comment from there and we'll be able to share with Zoe all that you want to say. I suppose, Zoe, to start here, you had a sold out show on Sunday, and it was incredible. I mean, as people in the audience, it was incredible. But I want to know, as someone who, was putting the show together, how did it feel, particularly because it's been such an incredibly difficult year with COVID. So you haven't been able to have, gigs, and you released this album during this time. And, we are grateful that it's been received with so much love. But how was it to perform for the first time in this time?
Oh, my goodness. So it was actually the second performance. The first performance was at the Native Rebels in Soweto, and that was also sold out, which is so amazing. And the second performance we did was at the State Theatre for the Pinda Mzala music series. There was Langa Mavuso, who opened the show, the incredible Langa, the soulful, beautiful soul and good friend of mine. And then there's Nduduzo Makatini and Buhlebe Dalo, who will also be performing this coming weekend. But our evening was so amazing. It was so soulful. It was so beautiful. It felt like there was a genuine experience between myself and the audience, and it's really the kind of thing that I live for, to experience that. People were singing along to the music. We were all just having a good time of healing, a good time of entertainment, a good time of just hanging out as music lovers. I really, really enjoyed it.
I am so like, oh, this album is amazing. But what has it meant to be a creator during this period, right? So, I mean, 2020 has been such a difficult year for many people, particularly in the arts. What has it meant for you to have to create and to put out music in a time such as this?
It's been very interesting to put out music at this time. So we released our sophomore album INGANEKWANE in the thick of the lockdown, around 2020. But a lot of the music created in 2019, you know. And at first, there was a lot of hesitation. There were a lot of delays when it came to releasing the messaging behind the music, and the idea that everything in the body of work is to celebrate Black bodies. It feels like there couldn't have been a better time for the album to come out, you know. So it's been beautiful to release music in that instance. There's a lot of things that actually challenge my perspective with regards to what releasing a body of work is, because I mean, with the global pandemic, we've never really experienced one before, so we don't know how to interact on the business end, to interact with the body of work in such a way that it lives as much as big as it possibly can, and we do justice to the space that it occupies, you know. So that was interesting, but I think it was a beautiful learning curve. I think the messaging was important, and I'm quite happy that there was an album released this year, because quite honestly, I wasn't as creative, especially during the very thick of the global pandemic. You know, it was very difficult to get into a space of writing, singing, you know, and being a musician. And I think it might have been the heartbreak and the disappointment that came with plans that we had and tours that we were going to start exploring in the country and even outside of the continent, you know. But I think, yeah, blessings come in strange packages, and I'm grateful that people are responding to the album so beautifully. I'm grateful that we're having the conversations that we're having, you know, whether it's the violences that we feel systems have put in place for Black bodies, and whether it's violences that we commit against each other. You know, we're actually having that conversation, and we have time to have that conversation because we aren't worrying about the normal things, you know, the 9 to 6s, and, you know, getting home from, you know, everything has kind of been disrupted, and it feels like it's for a very, very good reason. So just taking it with stride and with as much grace as I possibly can.
I mean, this is your sophomore album, right? Yellow, a Novel was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I still return to it because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, can there just be so much excellence? Because I think like vocally you do such wonderful things, right? And just different things. So for me at least, every listen is different. But I think with your sophomore album, there is a shift, right? And I want to speak a little bit about that shift, right? I think that in this album you're standing firmly in, talking more boldly about identity and doing it in your home language. And I'm not isiZulu speaking, right? But I feel connected to this, right? Because I feel that it's like a love letter to Black people. So even though sometimes I have to call Alma and be like, babes, I just want to know what this one word means in the song. But I feel the spirit behind that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this album being about language and about identity. Why was it important for you to largely create this album in isiZulu?
Well, I mean, just looking at the musical brand behind Zoë Modiga, my thing, or at least how my journey of music and expressing it to people, it's always been revealed as reflecting the human experience back to people. And I think there's so many topics, so many interesting things to explore in that. And with the sophomore album, INGANEKWANE, identity just became such an important theme. I found that after the first album, talking about self-reflection, talking about going into oneself, it felt like a natural and personal growth within myself to engage with who I am, like who am I, you know, and who we are is something that we identify in very many different ways. But it felt like the conversation in my mind and around the minds of people that were around me were really centered around Black bodies, you know. Being Black is one of the most beautiful things that I'm glad I am, even though I did not choose to be that. But I find that at the same time, there's so many things that we deal with by mere fact of being Black. There's so many things that we need to recognize about that journey and to celebrate about that journey and to own up to, you know. And it just felt important to celebrate it, you know. There's so many conversations around the many violences that we go through. There's so many conversation around the negatives, you know, and I really just wanted to have something documented that just celebrates us, you know, where we meet in a space and we just sing our hearts out and we just create spaces for each other. Or if you're listening to the album in your car or wherever it is that you are, you find that this body of work just creates space for me and it just allows me to be. And I think we need that, and I definitely think we deserve it as well.
I felt like the theme of dreams and manifesting our dreams, but also our dreams coming true, ran throughout the project. But I'm really curious about what it means to manifest your dreams or to have your dreams come true in like these very anti-Black, very capitalist frameworks that we exist in, right? So what does it mean to be your ancestors' wildest dreams when we find ourselves in the kind of frameworks that we do? And I'm just curious about your own reflections about what it means to have your dreams come true. So Feza Mapup, what does that look like in the framework in which Black people find themselves in?
That's such a beautiful question. You know, I feel that ultimately, as Black people, especially in a Caucasian world, we've always been given goalposts, and we've seen those goalposts shift over time. You know, you assimilate, you speak, you talk the talk, you walk the walk, and you still find that there's so much divide and there's so much that doesn't speak to the hard work that you put into relating to this world, you know, whether the world is anti-Black or capitalist, you know. But I find that with my album, the idea was that by mere fact that I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. I don't have to reach to it. It's already something that I embody, and it's already something that I am. And I think a lot of Black people need to interact with themselves in that way. Because like I said, we're always reaching out. It's never something that we find is already there, is already within us, you know. And it's important for us to realize that everything we need, we are. Everything we aspire to, we are already. And I think that's why that theme keeps following through in the body of work, that just by mere fact that I am, without being or trying to do anything, I am completely my ancestors' wildest dreams. I've been asked for, I've been hoped for, and by mere fact of existing, I have everything that I need to change the world around me, to impact people that are closest to me, even those that might not know me by name, you know. And I think, yeah, it's very important to realize it, to engage it at the very least, you know. And I believe it to be true.
Yeah.
I really want like language, because I feel that English does not capture fully what we want to express, especially in our home languages. And I think that's what I appreciate about the album, right? There's just like a lot of plays on words, right? I think about like when you speak about ingoma, you know, and ubugoma, like a song, right? But in a song and healing. But in many ways, I think that this is it, right? Like I think about the idea of like us listening to your album is a space of healing, right? So as much as you're singing to us, you're also inviting us into this healing process. And it seems the album is sort of covered a lot with spirituality, right? When, for instance, we think about ancestry and what ancestry means and how we draw strength from ancestry, but also speaks to a higher power, whatever you may believe in, whatever you may want to believe in, and what you draw strength from. And I wanted to speak a little bit about that, right? This idea of like healing connected very strongly with spirituality.
Man, well, according to me and the theory that I have, or the theory that I subscribe to, is one that human beings are spirits first, we're souls first before we are our physical selves, you know. And by mere fact that we are spirits and souls first means that we are our spiritual selves before anything else, you know. And I think there's a lot that gets to be uncovered once we're able to interact in that way, you know. I find that religion in many ways has kind of challenged us against ourselves when it comes to what we consider holy, what we consider to be spiritual, you know. But I think us existing in our truest sense is being spiritual. By mere fact that we are existing, coexisting around each other means that we are already capturing what all of that means. And I could, maybe it's an idealistic way of looking at life, but I feel like there's a lot of things that can be solved by looking at things or looking at ourselves as spiritual first, you know, because I think spirit wants the best possible outcome for something. Spirit conspires for you, you know, spirit doesn't wish harm on you or the next person. I mean, it's all these very simple ideologies that are attached to spirituality, that I think if we were to interact with ourselves in that way, we'd be able to really have an awakening about what that is, you know, even if we don't necessarily look at it the same way. And I think even language is such an important part of spirit, you know, even with a song like Lengoma, you know, Ingoma is a song, but Ingoma is also healing. You know, how completely literal can the idea of spirit be, even in the way that it showcases itself with that particular example, you know. And I feel that Black people are very spiritually sophisticated people, despite what we've been taught about what we are, you know. And I think it's just a matter of engaging that amongst ourselves, asking questions and trying to see what things we've been taught that don't speak to that, you know. And I think language is a beautiful device to be able to recall the truth of what that is, you know.
There is an intentionality in the way that the album is structured. So from song choice to continuity, from Yellow using certain songs as the titles, for example. And also, I guess, who you've chosen to work with on the album. This album has very few features. And I want you to please take us through that process, right? What informed so much of the intentionality, but also why you have placed the songs in the way that you have, and the continuity. So I'm really interested in the process around this album.
Oh, wow. So when it comes to features, there's always this very interesting conversation I have in my head about what that is. I would like to think I subscribe to the idea that songs choose who they want on them, you know, and it's not necessarily my job to dictate that. Obviously, when we look at collaborating with people, outside of the magic of music, there's also business aspects that one might choose to look at, where you consider the fact that my listeners are going to be introduced to your listeners, or whether you consider that there's a transactional relationship that can be a win-win for both parties, you know. And it's not something that I'm unaware of, but I think I prefer the idea that songs choose themselves, because I want to collaborate with people and I want it to make sense. I want it to be like, there couldn't be any other thing. I want it to fit. I want it to resonate. And working with the features that are in the album, it made sense, you know, it resonated. When we look at a song like Ilanga Lishonile, there was a collaboration with amazing bassist, amazing producer, Banda Banda, you know. And he was actually the one that reinterpreted that body of work, which was originally sung by Miriam Makeba, Miriam, Mama Africa, you know, and it just felt right. You know, I feel like his footprint was already in the song in the way that he interpreted it. I couldn't imagine anyone else featuring on that song, you know. And artists like Samba Ndokumbaye, who's a percussionist from West Africa, did the drums for an incredible ode to Isanusi Setu, Ubab Credo Mota, who passed away this year, and well, passed into the next life this year. And with that, I think the idea behind it was that sometimes words are beautiful, and they are vehicles that we use to transport all kinds of messages, the literal ones and the ones that you feel like in your body and in yourself. But it felt like with Ubab Credo Mota, with everything that he's contributed to Black consciousness and spirituality, the words seemed like they would fail, you know. And I think drums have been used historically by us as Africans to tell those stories. I think drums are able to talk in many ways, and that's why that collaboration just, again, it just made sense, you know. And another beautiful collaboration was with Tubatsi Mpomoloi, who's the lead singer of Urban Village. When we were looking into doing the song, because Banda didn't only do a feature, but he also produced the album. I said to him, I wanted a song that speaks about healing, which is Lengoma, and I wanted there to be a male or a masculine energy or perspective with regards to the song. As much as the song is very repetitive, which I think is part of meditating. When you meditate on something, you're constantly repeating that idea. I felt like it would be beautiful to have feminine and masculine energy because of a lot of the conversations that were happening in the space of feminine and masculine, you know, between men and women, you know. And I thought that would be beautiful. It would be a beautiful way of translating the healing back to people. And I think Dubatsi's voice is very potent in being able to do that. I feel like he has a lot of very beautiful things to say. I'm interested for him to share a lot more with the world what his ideologies and views about all kinds of things are. And it just felt like, again, it just made sense. It clicked, you know. So these collaborations were not just my decision to make. I think the music was already like, yep, that's my guy, that's my guy, that's my guy, you know. And I'm happy about that.
I love what you say, right? Because in many ways, it speaks back to the spirituality of like the whole album. Is that you're saying, I'm just a vessel to bring the music, right? And so the song has already chosen who it has chosen, and I'm grateful to just be the person who delivers the song. I wanted to think a little bit about, you know, we've had NSARS in Nigeria. We've had the resurgence in many ways of Black Lives Matter. We've had some protests in South Africa pertaining to GBV. And I think Enja, which is literally like a clarion call to the youth, right? Like sort of embodies that spirit for me. I was listening to it and thinking about movements and thinking about music, right? And about how like the embodiment of movements in many instances is music. We often think of music as like this nice time, but actually, like when you think about Umama Miriam Makeba, Ubusim Mhlongo, you think about that their music was political. And I wanted to speak a little bit about Enja and speaking about like, you know, the commemoration of the 1976 youth and thinking about the protests that were happening in France in the late 70s. And wanting to talk about that, why was it important for you to include this clarion call in the album?
Oh my goodness. I think as a people we are so good at having anthems of war cry, you know, and I think it's a very beautiful way to connect people. I also think that a lot of watershed moments that have happened with very many different movements, and especially movements that involve Black bodies, a lot of those movements have been youth led. A lot of those movements have been youth-led. And I think it's very important to know that there is the youth of the 1976 that we come from, that has allowed us to exist. And with a lot of the conversations we're having about ENSARS, you know, gender-based violence, the Black Lives Matter movement, we're seeing that a lot of conversations are not just limited to the youth, but are youth-led in that sense. And I think that song is just there to affirm that, you know, that in the same way that change was made all those many years ago by young people, we are in a position right now where we can take our place as young people today. And we can see ourselves not just as spectators of this change that we hope to happen, but we're actually at the forefront of what it is in our own capacities. We're constantly empowering ourselves with educating ourselves about the hashtags that are happening, you know, and the histories behind all the changes that we've seen and all the changes that we want, you know. And I think it's important, like you said, song is such a beautiful part of protesting. It's such a beautiful part of activism. It's such a beautiful part of documenting a time. And I don't think there's any time like this. I don't think we've had this many conversations about the human condition as we've had. And I'm grateful to be a musician in this time, to be able to reflect and to document that musically. So yeah, young people, we need to rise up and take our place. And I mean, we've heard it so many times before, take your place, take your place. But I think it's beautiful that we have ways to acknowledge that within ourselves and seeing ourselves as actual changing agents, you know.
I love that, you know, speaking about young people taking their place and being change agents, right? Because I was saying this to the Tlokonolo earlier, just being like, conscience in this country will have you in a constant state of rage, right? So being a Black woman in this country or being Black and queer in this country will just have you constantly raging, you know. But there's a thing about hope that runs throughout this album, right? That there is a hopefulness, even in the midst of the Black condition in this country. There's a hopefulness that's imbued in the album, and you know, you're saying and there's something so powerful about the idea that things will not always be this way. And I'm always curious about the condition of hope. How do you hold on to hope in the face of like the conditions of Black people in this country?
Oh, wow. Such a beautiful, so many beautiful questions. Jeez, guys. I feel that, especially in South Africa, I feel honestly that Black people have been gaslighted for dear life. In the 27 years of freedom that we've had, a lot of the messaging has been that of gaslighting us and us not really being acknowledged with regards to the atrocities that we've like faced, you know. And the idea of hope has always been a campaign. The idea of hope has always been just this far-fetched, made up. What's this thing that you call when you are on a hot road and you see mirage is the word I'm looking for, you know, where it's like this mirage of water and you're walking towards the water and you realize it's land, you know. That's what hope has been, I think, to a lot of South Africans. And I kind of want to reimagine that. I think it's beautiful to hear messages of hope from someone who has a particular perspective and experience of being Black in South Africa, being a person of color in South Africa, you know, and I think it reads different. I'm not trying to advertise an idea of something, but I'm trying to share a messaging of a hope wished and a hope I know can be achieved, you know, without taking away from the experiences that we go through, without making it seem like those experiences aren't happening at all, you know. And I'm not saying I have the answers to this hope that I hope for. And I'm not saying I'm the only perspective. I just think it's important to have that, but to package it in a way where we see ourselves just as things are, as much as we're hoping for how we want things to be. And sometimes hope is just being seen. You know, sometimes hope is not being sold dreams. Sometimes hope is like, I see the position that you're in now. Ngiyabona ukuthi siyabulalana, ngiyabona ukuthi asiyithembi, you know, ngiyabona ukuthi sithatha kancane, you know, something like that. Sometimes when someone recognizes your experiences, that is a hopeful thing, because it's like, for a change, someone is not trying to campaign and sell me dreams and fists, but they actually just see me, you know. So yeah, but hope is a very interesting question, and I'm excited to engage, you know, what that is. I'm so sorry, guys. Do you mind if I ask for a charger? I'm seeing that my phone is coming flat. Thank you so much. Technology, I swear. There we go.
Oh,
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
No worries. There's a beautiful comment here from Nozmanga. It says, "Oh, Zoë Modiga behila, uyasipholisa futhi uyasiphilisa ngey'ngoma zakho, siyabonga sis."
Oh, Nozimanga, siyabonga. Sibonga kakhulu. Sibonga kakhulu, you know. I don't even know what else to say. That's the power of music, though, you know. That's the power of music, the ability to transmute messages, you know. I can't take all the credit and be like, hey, yeah, Zoë Modiga, yes. You know, that's the power of music. When you allow it to be, when you allow music to be, you'll see wonders, you know. Or we've seen wonders.
There's another question which Alpinal and I were discussing earlier. And I mean, I think that artists get asked all the time, like singers as well, is who are your musical influences? Who inspires you musically? But I'm particularly interested in singers' literary influences, right? I always want to know who are the writers that influence your writing style, who influence the kind of music that you produce, but also the kind of artist you hope to be.
That's very interesting. You know, so with this question, I always try to not answer. It's very easy to answer questions that you get a lot more often the same way, you know? And I feel like influences are such an ever-changing thing. As much as I have musicians that I go to all the time for a particular thing, I think it's always an ever-changing thing, you know? So if I were to answer that from the top of my mind right now, I would say, I was actually having a short conversation, no sisi, Usimpiwe Dana, right? And she sent me a message, and I was so thrilled by this message because it was something along the lines of respecting my writing. And anyone who knows me knows that I always say she's one of the most incredible songwriters that we have, you know? So she's definitely someone I think has used her words in such a beautiful way to share a lot of messages that she's been able to share in her music, you know. Who else? I do enjoy Corinne Bailey Rae. I used to listen to a lot of her. I enjoy the way that she writes. And when it comes to musicians, I enjoy Umambusi Mhlongo, Mirimakeba, Thandiswa Mazwai, like performers, man, people who when you look at them on stage, they're able to change the spaces that they're in. Those are the people that I'm drawn to, you know. They don't just get on stage and, you know, just it's another song, another day, another audience, but they're able to actually change the space that they're in. I aspire to that, so I really enjoy that, you know. Beyonce is also a beautiful lady who's able to do that, who has the stamina to have this big production, but she's able to change the spaces that she's in, you know. But I wouldn't do justice naming because I feel like I could go on and on and on. Bob Marley, you know, Salif Keita, who I had the honor of seeing, just looked like a complete king, you know. And he was performing at the Joy of Jazz, and I was enamored by him. My jaw was, well, not literally, but was figuratively on the floor, and I was like, my goodness, like I'm looking at a superstar, you know. So I love people that just have that energy about them that they carry, where they consider themselves in the stories that they tell, where they consider the people who they're telling the stories to, where they own their space in terms of transmuting the energy hoped to be achieved with their messaging, and like really owning that space where you're so compelled that you just have to stare at them and be drawn by that, you know. Yeah, because I feel those kinds of people are people that make messages come alive. You believe them, you know, and I think it's a good thing to believe something, especially when it could mean a lot to a lot of people.
I think the album, I don't know, like this album is amazing for me because every listen I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm picking up something that I didn't pick up before, you know. I feel like I'm not listening closely enough. And then I'm like, oh, yes. And I want to speak about there seems to be a cementing, like a taking up of space that you do in your sophomore album more unapologetically than in Yellow. And also a sort of like a reimagining of Black people. You know, in Abantu, you speak about like poverty is not, it's not who we are, right? Like we're just like, these systems that we've lived in have sort of created our identities, but that is not who we are, right? We are royalty. And how you sort of do that is in the imagery of the album itself, right? So when we think about the cattle and we think about wealth and we think about land, right? And in many ways, that's what I feel you do a lot in the album. It's like, let's take up space, right? Like we have ownership of this land, we have ownership of this wealth. And I wanted to speak about that, right? This idea of cementing ourselves or taking up space in an unapologetic manner, because I feel like often we say, oh, yes, I'm going to go into that boardroom and I'm going to take up space. But I think it's more than that. You're saying you deserve to be here just as much as anyone else. And it is your birthright to be here. And I wanted to speak a little bit about that, just like that spirit that you capture, particularly in the song Abantu.
Oh, goodness. So, you know, when it comes to this idea of taking up space, I want to just bring it back to reality for a few seconds. So, the funny thing about the two albums is that Yellow the Novel, I was actually a lot more sure than I thought I was. Maybe there was a bit of naiveness happening. Maybe I was also a lot younger. You know, I was in my teens when I wrote the new, you know. But with this album, I was actually very unsure of what it would be. I didn't feel qualified to write the music that I wrote in this album. It was a conversation that was constantly happening between myself and Banda, between myself and my family, between myself and music lovers who'd listen to certain songs in Yellow the Novel, to be particular, INGANEKWANE in Yellow the Novel, and who challenged me to look into writing in the mother tongue, you know? So I think I say this to say that sometimes the idea of taking up space is not one where you feel absolutely sure that what you have is enough, you know, where you don't feel absolutely sure that everything is in your DNA and all you need to do is just express it and to take, you know, there wasn't a confidence about that. But what was a guide was the thing that I can't, was the intangible. You know, when you do something and you're terrified, which I wasn't brave at all. And you, as you're doing it, you start to see that, hey, wait, there's a certain power that seems to be radiating in this space, you know. I didn't consider myself to be much of a speaker until this album, but it almost felt like the people that prayed for me were right behind me and were anchoring me in such a way that I being singing about something that I once feared, you know. I never thought I was the most fluent Zulu speaker. But in many ways, I felt the most qualified with this body of work, you know. And with a song like Abantu, that song is a love letter to Black bodies, you know. That song is a song that speaks again about a hope that recognizes the situations you're already in. It's a song that talks about thinking little of yourself, which I was thinking little of myself, you know. It's a song that talks about us not killing each other, which is something we are seeing that is prevalent even amongst our own Black communities, you know. And it's also talking about, I'm literally trying to translate in my head. That's so funny.
No, you can speak isiZulu. Like,
yeah, and not having a trust with regards to who you are, you know. So all these concepts, again, going back to the thing of people feeling like they have space. When you see something and you recognize yourself in that particular thing, you're kind of compelled to be like, no, man, but it's what it is. And I think that's enough for you to be affirmed in taking up that space, you know. So all that to say that I relate with people that aren't confident about what taking up space looks like. But it's to say that maybe sometimes it has to be a mind over matter thing. Maybe sometimes you just need to jump over it before you consider realize what it is. And you'll find that the tools that you need to be that will come along with you. You know, there's this whole thing about how the universe conspires for you. And I believe that if you take the first steps to be in the space that feels like this is exactly where you need to be, the universe or whatever it is that you believe in conspires for that and wants the best for that particular thing, wants to show off what that is, you know. And I think that's what it is sometimes, you know. Sometimes it's not I'm in my white gown with my white like duke. It doesn't look like that's like romanticized idea. I'm taking up my space, honey. Like I know what time it is. Ngiyazazi ithakazelo zami. I don't know my thakazelos as we speak right now. I've been asking family about them. I don't know what they are, you know. So what I'm saying is that sometimes there's not much to lean to, but whatever it is that is there for a reason to step onto, at least, you know, to take that initial step and to be like, let me do the damn thing, you know.
Yes. There's a question here about whether you pray before your shows, because there definitely was a higher power in the room on Sunday. And I guess maybe to expand that question a little bit is to maybe ask about your self-care practice or your spiritual practice, right? I think the Tottenham and I have become particularly interested in the self-care spiritual practices of creative, right? Because you put out so much of yourself, but what do you do to fill the cup once you've given so much of yourself? So do you pray before your shows, and what is your spiritual self-care practice?
Yes. So this for me is twofold, right? I feel that on one end, I don't necessarily have to always earn. Let's see, how do I put this? On one end, I feel like the higher power, in my way of seeing it, is something that is undeserved in some ways. So basically, I don't have to do things and earn brownie points to be able to have that call. It's just a gift, you know. It's just music. It's something that just came to be, and how I use it then becomes important, right? But just to completely contradict myself, on the other hand, it's the idea, I think, of constantly working on oneself. When I was much younger, I was a very competitive music kid. I used to enter a lot of competitions, I did a lot of training, and I was used to the idea that most times I was going to win some competition and save it in an account somewhere. And you know, that was my claim to fame. You know, even if I was not popular at school, I knew at least I'm gonna get that prize. You know what I mean? And I realized over time, especially moving from Yellow the Novel to INGANEKWANE, that sometimes growth is working on yourself and not necessarily always working on your craft. Sometimes it's just working on the kind of person that you are, you know. Are you a good person? You know, do you try your, and I'm not saying are you nice, because you can be nice and not be a good person, but are you a good person? Are you constantly curious about ways to better yourself? Are you constantly thriving? As imperfect as we all are, I'm gonna make mistakes tomorrow, I'm quite sure of it, but I'm always trying to aspire to that and to surround myself by people and energies that want that as well. You know, just the way of improving yourself outside of the house you want to get, the car you want to get, the clothes you want to wear, like just as yourself. How am I developing that? You know, and I think that translates on stage. I think not just to me, quite honestly, but like I think aspiring to be a good person is what leads you onto stage, because working on your craft is good and you can have amazing craftsmanship, but I don't think that craftsmanship is going to be responsible for changing the space around you. You know what I mean? And then for me, the third thought that question brings is that I subscribe to the idea that I was made by a higher power, which means I'm a higher power. I was made by a God, which means I'm a God. And in the same way that a God created me, I'm able to create what it is that I want to see. So before I go on stage, I am very intentional about wanting to move people's souls. It's something that evokes me from the innermost part. I feel it is the most supreme part of my calling, outside of the singing, outside of the writing songs. I don't like mediocre. I want people to feel goosebumps when they watch me perform. I don't want people to be bored. I don't want people to be like, why did I spend that money coming here? I felt those things before, so I don't want them for myself. I want to look at entertainers that look like they pray before they go on stage because of the way that they're able to move space. Or at least if it's not prayer that they subscribe to, it's the idea that performing is a prayerful moment. And that by mere fact that you're sharing your spirit with other people's spirits, are you taking care of the responsibility of that, you know? Because it is a responsibility. If I wanted to spew energies that were not okay to my audience, I have the power to do that because music speaks to the soul. And the soul is something that if you say, I'm coming to a Zoë Modiga show and Zoe doesn't want good things from you, you are so open to receive that. Like your spirit will be so open to receive that because you want to receive something as the audience. So for me, I take care to realize that I have a certain responsibility with people's souls, you know, and to want good things for the people that come and to want and to honor them as much as they've honored me by being in the space where they could have done honestly absolutely anything else because there's so many options, you know. So it's just umuntu man, like ngiyakubona yabo ngezulu mawuthi ngiyakubona sawubona, I see you, like I want to be able to see you, you know, and to respect what that means, you know. So yeah, that's what that is to me.
I mean, I'm just sitting here in awe and I'm just like, wow, man. Like, you know, for me, as someone who enjoys the music, I feel really privileged that you say that, right? That you say that I'm honoring you. And so when I go on stage, I'm like, just as much as these people are here to want good things for my career, for myself, I want to do the same thing. So there seems to be that higher spiritual alignment, right? Because like there isn't any malice. It's not I'm doing this because I'm getting paid for it, but I'm responsible for changing people. And I know that my music is a vehicle in which to do that. Official Backs on Twitter asks Zoe, this may be antiquated, but is Yellow and Ingane available in hard copy for collectors?
Hi, Official Backs. I'm always seeing Official Backs on my live IGs. I really, really, really enjoy Official Backs. Yellow the Novel and INGANEKWANE are available as hard copies. If you want to order, you just need to email team@zoemodiga.com. And yeah, Bob's your uncle. You'll get the body of work. And I have the habit of signing them because I think that's very, very sentimental and sweet. So
we love signed things. So we definitely want people to buy them. We love signed things. I wanted to talk about love more broadly. I think that in many ways, Yellow and both Ingane, Benkwane, like together, it's just like love. And I wanted to know what does love mean to you as a practice, right? Like there's this idea of like a First Corinthians type of love. Love is kind, love is patient. But I wanted to, you know, to sort of tease out what it means to you as Zoe. Because I feel that like it comes out in your music that you deeply care for people, you deeply care about your listener, whoever they may be. But in this second album, you deeply care about Black people and you want Black people to be affirmed in that love. But I wanted to just find out about, you know, what is your love practice and what are some of your thoughts on a love practice?
That's so interesting. So Utando is actually a song that's solely based on the 1 Corinthians kind of love, right? The all of love. But this is such an interesting question. I'm going to be thinking on top of my on my head. Top of my head. Yeah. Love to me is a space where you honor yourself and you honor your inner voice. I know between the three of us and anyone who's watching, we've all found found ourselves in positions, whatever context those positions are, where something inside you said no, but you said yes anyway. And then you realize down the line that you weren't necessarily honoring yourself in that moment, you know? And I think that for me, love is being able to be brave enough to make your yes, and your no. And to be able to follow that very, very quiet voice, but that very evident voice that's inside of you, you know? And I feel if you're able to operate from that with yourself, you're able to operate from that with people around you, you know? You're able to call into your space people that honor you instead of people that don't, whether that's platonic relationships, romantic relationships, work relationships, acquaintance relationships. You're able to keep people in your space that speak good things to that inner voice, you know? And within yourself, you know, if you know that you're maybe self-employed like I am, and waking up and having a shower in that particular moment is not serving you, you don't have the shower, you do your admin. I mean, honestly, it doesn't have to even be a poetic thing. You know, you do your admin and then, you know, afterwards, okay, I'll do some yoga, have a shower. But you honor the natural rhythm, you know, of who you are. I think that really is the highest form of love. And that love is what I think as people we've been made from. I think love is an energy that creates, you know. So if we're all conscious of the fact that each and every single thing we do, each and every single way that we interact with ourselves, the words we speak to ourselves, the words we speak to the people around us, they create realities, you know. And that is a form of love, you know. So how do we go about living life in a way where we speak nice things to people, nice things to ourselves, even if we wouldn't benefit at all from that, you know, even outside of me and my music, you know, when someone is helping me park my car, like what's my love language towards what that is, you know? And just on the subject of people that help park cars, there was one time I was having such a horrible day, and this gentleman, I was looking to go to a store, some pharmacy store that sells everything. I might not say what the name of it is, but they sell everything. Makeup. The only thing they don't sell is laptops. They sell everything. And I went there, and he gave me the most beautiful considerate. Like, he considered me, you know, and he considered me in such a way that I could feel that it wasn't because he was going to get anything from it. It was just him being that way. And I learned so much from that, you know. I was really, really moved by that, especially that particular day, because I really needed it, you know. And for me, that's love, you know, doing things even if you're not going to benefit from them. And in actual fact, you do benefit, just maybe not in a physical sense, but your soul benefits from that. I think you carve good karma for yourself, and you carve beautiful energies. But yeah, that's so interesting. I'm going to be thinking about that after this.
I'm just having the time of my life. I don't want to lie. I'm having the absolute time of my life.
What is that?
I just feel like I'm because I think oftentimes artists, particularly musicians, are sometimes separated from the work, right? We never really get to process a piece of work, a body of work with an artist, you know, but because they go to perform, and after they perform, people are like, I love your music, and then you leave, right? So there isn't that space for you to be like, you know, these are some of the things I'm thinking about, these are some of the things that are bothering me, or some of the things that I wanted to think about in the album. So I'm really appreciating this conversation because it gives me a glimpse into Zoë Modiga, the creator, outside of the music, right? Because I think it allows us to see as a person, and not just this ethereal being who exists somewhere in the world. It's just like, no, like, I'm a person and I go through shit, right? And like, yes, sometimes I don't want to get out of bed and I don't want to do this. And you don't know that. So I'm really grateful for this conversation, because I think it's a glimpse into the reality. You know, you said something earlier about, let me just bring it back here, because we are people, we live in the world, right? So thank you so much for sharing of yourself and being so generous. today. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And thanks for creating that space for me as well, you know, to exist outside of the music and to be a human being outside of the music, you know. I feel like these conversations always empower what that is. Truth is that I'm not shit, for lack of a better word, that I am and that I can come with, you know. But I am also I'm beautifully made as well, you know, inside and out. So I'm just glad that there's spaces that create that reality. And you guys have done that for me today. So I'm stoked. I'm happy. Nice.
So, I mean, it would be remiss. We're gonna be those that aunt and uncle. You know, when you know that there's like a talented person in your family, so when you have visitors, you're always like, so
we can pay you though. We just send us an invoice. We need to pay artists. We need to pay artists.
Lalela, in 2020, we don't do exposure. Like, it won't mean exposure. We're not trying to get your name out there. Lalela, it's really invoice.
Yeah, just you know, just a young taste.
Okay, I'll sing Isekazini, which means it's within me. Everything that I have, everything that I need, everything we've been talking about, actually, it's within me. So ingoma ithi ngicela ningizwe kahle ngifuna ukushintsha umhlaba ngine nceba mina nceba mina ngine nceba mina nceba mina. And this is my favorite part. Orlando isekazini, isekazini. Orlando
Yeah. Don't you feel like you've just been to church, you know, when you just want to be like, hallelujah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
My wallet. You know how like church and like the guest, like there's like a guest preacher and he's taking everybody to church. You know? Lalela. Sondes. Ufuna ufaka ama-notes, yabo ukuthi kubonakale nje singithintekile. Ngifuna ama-notes. Lalela. Where's my old bag? Where's my old bag? I need notes. I need notes.
You have like a really melodic. You see, someone from YouTube is like, favorite part makes me want to cry. And there's just a lot of bongeses. Thank you so much, Zoe. And I suppose before we let go, this is an opportunity for people who want to give Zoe her flowers to, you know, give Zoe her flowers. Or if you have a burning question, we're giving you a little bit of time to ask this question. So please type them up from where you are, and then we will post them to Zoe.
Lalela, this is your opportunity. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're in the presence of greatness. You can say it now after I actually had a conversation with him once. Praise my creative. So if you have a question, now's the time, guys. Before Zoe goes global, now Beyonce's featuring her. Now it's awkward.
I just want to say, Zoe, if you start a church, I will attend every day. So if you want to start a gathering, I will be there.
Oh, goodness. You know what? I actually think the church is any space of truth, hey? So maybe when you come to my gigs, it's already a church.
Yeah.
Just a space that tells the truth, you know.
So we're just waiting for people, if they have any comments, any questions, to give them to Zoe. But once again, to say thank you so much for being truthful, because I think that's what it is. I think that your music is birthed out of truth. So thank you for being true to the spirit. Thank you for being true to the uncertainty, because it allows us to sit with you in that uncertainty and not feel judged for sitting in the uncertainty. I feel oftentimes we are expected to just know things and be sure. But I think in many ways, what you've allowed us to do is to be like, sometimes I'm uncertain, but it's okay to sit in that uncertainty.
And I think that just to expand on that, it is also to be grateful for a space of vulnerability. I think a lot of us listened to Yellow and to INGANEKWANE and just felt that there was a place in which we could be vulnerable in the fullest of who we are and feel held by that, right? I think that everybody always encourages you to take up space and use your gift and be known, but there's no space for vulnerability in that. And there's a vulnerability where I think that Zoe allows us to use it. And in her journey and even in her unknowing, there's a special space for the ways in which you allow people to feel like they can inhabit that space and still produce beautiful work and still produce the kind of work that touches people. And it's so exciting to be able to be part of that kind of lifetime, right? It's beautiful to be in a lifetime where we witness Yellow and we witness INGANEKWANE, and there's just something about this moment, particularly in a pandemic.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much. Goodness. These words, they're giving me so much life. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys.
So I don't see anyone saying anything. So at this time, we will.
They're all blown away. They're speechless like we are.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
We just have to talk because we're hosting.
Yeah, they are taking it in a way that I will definitely be doing after this. Just I want to say this, Zoe. You're really important to this generation, and I hope you know that. I hope that you know that that we care and we hold space for you, and that we wish you all the goodness in the world, because you've really you're the best of us. And if there's anything that you leave with tonight, is that you know that you are really the best of us.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, thank you. Thank you. That's so affirming. Thank you. I'll swallow it very slowly down my neck.
There is one question on YouTube. I want to know the importance of collaboration with other artists and how the process of creating I Wish with Manana and Langa Mavuso.
Before Zoe answers, can we just throw it in that we actually saw her perform at Manana's show? It was like an impromptu performance.
So we saw Zoe, Manana, and Langa together. You know, we were just there.
And guys, I want to actually let you know that seeing the three of them perform is every bit as magical as you imagine it to be. So you listen to them and you see them perform and you're like, okay, that's right. That's it.
Say what's up, group. Oh, that's so beautiful. Goodness. I mean, so that the performance you guys are speaking about is actually Manana's sold out show that he did for his debut project, which is so amazing. But with regards to the question, Negalundi, in the process of creating I Wish with Manana and Langa Mavuso. So Manana and Langa Mavuso are amazing human beings to me. And we've been friends for very, very, very many years. I went to high school with Mavuso. So I've been friends with him since he was shorter than me, you know. Since that, you know, that 10th grade growth spurt, before that happens and all the girls are taller. That's how long I've known him. And it's always so funny to think about. And Manana, we both met in our college studies, you know. So we've been able to form a beautiful friendship with all the beautiful joys that all these years have brought, you know. And prior to us being recording artists, we actually used to perform at a lot of corporate events, a lot of events together as a trio. And we would perform alongside Ulutwe Danga, who's a composer and keyboard player, and just a beautiful band of people, you know. So there was always that camaraderie. There was always that way of us having a chemistry, working together. And I mean, Manana and myself are in a band called Seba Kapstadt that exists right now. So that relationship is so extensive in the chemistry in our songwriting. Not Manana, sorry, Langa Mavoso had asked us to write a song, you know, with him for his debut album, his amazing debut album. And he put us in a studio, you know. Manana started coming up with a few chords, you know, and I started playing the guitar alongside those chords, you know, and we decided that we want to write about the system of things, you know. There's work to be done because it's not good enough. Wishing on a star won't change it. So something to the call of change, you know, not wishing on a star to make things happen. And as the record stands, everyone that wrote their songs, they're part of the song. That's what they're singing. So Ulanga wrote what he's singing. I wrote what I'm singing. Nana wrote. So the perspective of this, of what wishing is, and really that's just how it happened. One studio day, very laid back, you know, beautiful. How I wish was created. And I'm glad I'm actually being asked about collaborative songs, because those are the only ones I remember, like creatively, like what was actually done. I have a very, very big problem recalling my own work. But when I work alongside people, I'm like, oh yeah, it's that time when you said this joke and that happened, you know. And the importance of collaboration. Sorry, Lundi asked something else there. I think is just to liven up the message, you know, is to get different perspectives in a particular message, which is always beautiful because we're all different kinds of people. And we can all have a perspective and an opinion about something, you know. And I think it's always fun for all the music lovers that follow us individually to see a dope collaboration, you know. And I'm just lucky that these people are like family to me. So I have my cake and I eat it too.
Oh, this has been absolutely amazing. I cannot believe that it has to end. I just want like Zoe to come live with me, right? And I just like listen to every day, right? But I guess that's the beauty of the body of work that Zoe has, is that we can take this journey every single day through her music, and there's just something so beautiful about that. So from the TPSs, I really want to give Zoe her flowers for the amazing work that she's done and continues to do. And I know that this appreciation for you will not end here. I know that you're going to just be astounded by what the next year brings ahead for you, just with the amazing work that you've put out and continue to put out. And so from the TGNators, we just want to give you your flowers. We can't wait to see what the future holds in store. And we have so much love and appreciation for you, and we literally cannot wait to just see what the future holds, right? As more people begin to discover you, but also as your star begins to shine as bright as it needs to be. So from the Cheeky Natives, thank you so much for amazing work. Continue to be amazing. Know that we send you all of our love and our appreciation always. And we just want to encourage everybody to please buy Zoe's albums. You know, you can actually get albums, but also they're available on all the platforms. So please do the right things. Now, don't ask a friend for a copy. Please don't be problematic. It's a pandemic. Just be better. Thank you so much to everybody. We are super excited. And yeah, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mwah! Your words are my shoulder pads. I'll wear them.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Bye.